Hey there, and welcome to Cataclysm Dark Days Ahead, and to the Achievement Run Challenge. I am Hunter Cheevo, and whether due to stubbornness, ignorance, or just plain good luck, I missed the evacuation and am chilling in a golf course clubhouse with none of the risen dead in sight. I am a vegan, fast learning, parkour running, pain enjoying, book hating, unattractive, hyperopic, myopic, wanderlusting police officer with a weakness for junk food, coffee, cigarettes, and sleeping pills. I woke up today with a mysterious list in my head, seemingly implanted there by an unknown entity. A list of tasks I must accomplish, and of things that I will never allow myself to do from this point forward. With civilization destroyed and everyone I know dead or turned, the list is all I have left to live for. It's time to earn some achievements. The first reason I started in the golf course clubhouse is because there's one particular achievement that is very easy to miss, since it invalidates itself after the first in-game minute has passed. Before that first minute is up, I need to kill something, anything at all. This is also the main reason I started as a profession with a gun. The golf course usually has no zombies near it, but it does contain a large number of passive wildlife that can be killed to complete the achievement within the first few seconds of the game. Drawing my pistol from the holster, I take a better look outside the front window of the clubhouse and immediately notice that there are giant ants outside. Checking the world map, it seems the golf course is in the middle of a large forest, with not one, not two, but three mutant anthills in close proximity to the southeast. The only road leads west to a large regional dump, and a radio tower is visible to the southwest and a motel to the north through the forest. For now, this is all I know of the world. And the ants present an obstacle since, unlike most of the creatures that normally spawn at a golf course, the soldier ants will attack me on sight, and even the worker drones will become aggressive if I harm any of their brethren. Fortunately, ants have poor eyesight, so I can safely work my way around them as long as the crowd isn't too dense. Just walking across to the back of the clubhouse has already put me about 30 seconds into the first minute of the game, so I need to act. This side looks to have no nearby soldier ants, so I go out the back door and notice a giant ladybug to the northwest. These are deadly predators that can take multiple gunshots and keep coming, but fortunately they also have bad eyesight and are more interested in eating the closest available prey rather than coming after me. A passive worker ant is standing just a few steps away from the back door, so I run up and cap it in the head, earning two achievements at once. Rude Awakening for scoring a kill within the first minute of the game, and DDT for killing a mutant insect. I also fail the pacifist and non-violence conduct, but that's the price I pay for success. I return inside before the noise draws any unwanted critters and check out the display racks of golf equipment in the clubhouse. I put on a pair of thin leather golfing gloves, a hat, and the real prize and second main reason I started at this location, a golf bag. On top of being large by volume, the golf bag is designed to be long enough to store golf clubs, which means it's also long enough to store pretty much anything else, including rifles and certain other items that are too long to fit into normal backpacks. It is very encumbering, but I can drop it to free up my movement before getting into a melee fight. Putting on clothes causes me to fail the nudist conduct, but since, in theory, I need to put on power armor later in the run, this was inevitable. There's nothing else useful to me on the ground floor of the clubhouse, so I spend a few minutes waiting and considering the best way to get out of here without getting swarmed by ants, since there are already soldiers congregating around the area I fired my gun earlier. That's when I noticed that a giant ladybug was fighting the ants out front, and absolutely bodying them. The beautiful bastard cleared out the entire parking lot and then chased another bug off into the woods, leaving me free to walk out the front door. The golf course usually spawns with a couple of vehicles in the parking lot, both wrecked and drivable, and a few golf carts in the back near where I shot the ant. This time around, the only vehicle to be found is a tow truck out front, but by some miracle it's completely functional, though a little banged up. It has a functioning engine, alternator, battery, seat, controls, dashboard, and wheels, and has enough gas in the tank and charge in the battery to drive it away from here. The security system was intact, which could have been a problem, but when I got into the front seat, the keys were in the ignition and I was able to start it up. The tow truck has limited storage capacity compared to other vehicles, but the tow crane attached to the back is going to be a vital tool for vehicle work in the future, so I would have needed to find one of these at some point anyway. Overall, I almost couldn't have asked for a better vehicle to start with at the beginning of the game. The top floor of the clubhouse has some food and other minor supplies, but it's accessed on the outside at the back of the building where the ants are starting to congregate, so I decided to ditch the golf course and drove off on the thankfully uncongested road. After looting a school bus for a couple bottles of soda, I drove around the perimeter of the dump. I did see a couple of useful items, but also a small crowd of zombies fighting local animals, and decided it wasn't worth the risk. Instead, I rode south, reaching a small tree line blocking my vehicle from getting right up to the radio tower, and made my way there on foot. A nearby corpse had a Zippo lighter to provide me some fire starting capabilities, and I proceeded up the radio tower. The world map is automatically revealed around you by a set distance as you travel to new areas, and the higher up you are, the more that gets revealed, so reaching the top of a radio tower reveals quite a large region around it. Some radio towers are occupied by giant wasps, but this one was clear. However, for some reason a wasp queen will sometimes be at the top floor of radio towers that have no other signs of wasp infestation, so I peeked up each individual staircase just to be safe. And I'm glad I did, because there was a fucking wasp queen at the top ready to kill me if I hadn't done that. Any items or benefits from going up to that top floor are not worth that encounter. Even if all I spent was a couple of my bullets and managed to kill it, those are at a premium right now, so I scooted my ass back down to the ground and ran away from the tower as fast as possible, and the queen didn't seem interested in chasing me. My trip up the tower revealed more terrain to the south, but I don't have a way to travel there in my vehicle, and nothing was interesting enough for me to want to go there on foot. Instead, I drove north until I spotted the outskirts of a town and circled the outside of it until I could find an angle of approach to a building that wouldn't cause me to attract any zombies. When I selected my house, I parked a short distance away, and a fat zombie promptly smashed its way out of a window and came after me. Earlier, I had picked up a stick to use as a basic melee weapon, but I had no cutting implement to whittle it down into a much more useful cudgel. With stick in hand, I lured the fat zombie to a boulder to force it to waste movement points crawling over, and beat it to death while only taking a minor scratch in return. My first zombie kill earned me the achievement 1 down, billions to go. Since I can't smash terrain and I don't have a crowbar yet, windows are a hard stop for me from the outside. Windows that are broken by enemies can be cleaned out so they're safe for me to crawl through, but there's an open window on the back of this house that I can use instead. At least I was going to, but a normal zombie was also inside and clambered out to meet me, and met a similar fate at the end of my rapidly splintering weapon. In the process of killing this zombie, I gained a level in bashing weapons, my first skill level of the playthrough, and failed the conduct teacher leave them kids alone. The zombie's pockets contain some useful items, namely another lighter, an MP3 player, money to spend at the inexplicably functional vending machines, and some dank kush. Marijuana provides little tactical benefit, but you'd better believe I'm taking that shit anyway. Making my way inside, this house was apparently some kind of communal living space with multiple small beds and dressers lined up against the walls. I grabbed a few clothes and a pillow and blanket that I can use to more comfortably sleep in the tow truck, and found a flashlight and a pair of scissors in a hall closet. I decided to poke my head into the basement before checking the rest of the house, which was a mistake since it was infested with zombies and giant cockroaches. I managed to grab some antiseptic and aspirin from the bathroom before the zombies caught my scent and started slamming on doors behind me, so I escaped out the window, returned to the truck, upgraded my drip with the clothes I'd found, cut up window curtains to use as questionable bandages, and continued my scouting of the town outskirts. I almost immediately encountered a science lab of all things right outside of town, so I guess I'm sticking around this area until I find the necessary equipment to raid an endgame dungeon. The town turns out to be quite large, and I'm cut off from going any further north on this side, but I do locate a couple more unoccupied houses to check. I grabbed a fresh stick and whittled it down into a cudgel using my scissors, then entered this house through an open bedroom window and snagged a denim jacket and a motorcycle helmet. The kitchen provides me with a selection of basic tools and food, though since my storage space is limited and food isn't very difficult to come by, I just grabbed some beverages to keep hydrated. Upstairs provides me with some more clothing and a laptop, which will be vital to training up my computer skills. In the unfinished and thankfully unoccupied basement, I search through dusty cardboard boxes and find a baseball bat, a definitely sterile syringe, and the house's water heater filled with clean, pre-boiled water, so I empty out some jugs of cleaning chemicals and fill up. Before I continue, I want to be able to get a rubber hose so I can siphon fuel for the truck from abandoned vehicles, and the easiest place to get one is a refrigerator. I'm not allowed to smash the fridge, but I can disassemble it with a prying tool and a screwdriving tool. A hammer I found in the kitchen cabinets works for the prying part, but I didn't find a screwdriver, so I used the hammer to bash some metal dining utensils into scrap metal, and somehow craft a factory-quality Phillips head screwdriver out of them, with a chunk of a wooden curtain rod used as the handle. I spend the next 20 minutes disassembling the refrigerator and claim my rubber hose as well as some miscellaneous parts. With this house done, I rip out all the strings from the curtains, stash my stuff at the truck, do some inventory management, and hit the next building to the north. Highlights of this one include a frying pan, a corn casserole that somehow contains no ingredients, a hacksaw, and a big Rambo survival knife in the basement. The next house I wanted to approach had 2 zombies, which I caught the attention of and decided to test out my badass new knife. Did I say badass? I meant cheap piece of shit that took damage literally the first time I swung it, somehow, even though I didn't hit anything with it. After some nicks and scratches, I did manage to stab both zombies to death, as well as a couple more that ambushed me on the back patio of my target house. A zombified version of one of my fellow police officers spotted me in the house and came after me. After putting him down, I grabbed a damaged and dirty AR-15 still slung across his shoulder, giving me 5 more bullets to use on zombies and expanding my arsenal to include 5.56 caliber. The house contains some more food, aspirin, and band-aids, with the only other notable find being some strong antibiotics and a home sound studio in the basement with an electric guitar I decided to take. I took the time to use my curtain strings to fashion my flashlight into a wearable headlamp to save inventory space, and climbed into the next house over. This one is right next to a cemetery full of freshly risen corpses, so although I tried staying away from the windows, I was spotted before I could find anything terribly useful, so I legged it back to the truck. With further exploration into the town blocked and not wanting to get into any unnecessary fights with the injuries I've already taken, I drove away from town and got on the road headed northwest until it reached a mining facility. I know these can have tools and more importantly a free gasoline pump, so although there are quite a few basic zombies around, I decided to risk it. By luring the zombies through the wrecked cars outside, I could get a bunch of free hits on them. This worked great at first, and I earned the Decimate achievement for killing my 10th enemy. As I continued to fight the miners in small groups, they got a few lucky hits in, which started to put me in pain, which caused further zombies to get more hits in and making me progressively worse at fighting them off. Finally, I stabbed my way to the gas pumps and used my rubber hose and an empty bleach jug to transport the gas, 1 gallon at a time, to my truck. Even with all the gas in the pump and the vehicles outside the mine, I was still only able to get one of my truck's 60-liter tanks about 3/4 full, but that will last me a good while. The elevators are out and I can't get inside the office building to reactivate them, so I used the claw end of my hammer to pry up a manhole cover leading into the mine instead. I didn't explore far because there are some really nasty things in these mines that I'm not ready to encounter yet, but in the starting area I did grab a first aid kit, some protective work clothing, and my first bionic implant, a skull-mounted flashlight. Not that I'll be able to install it for a while. Back at the truck, I sorted out my stuff, took some aspirin for the pain, and ate some food for the first time this run because I'm starting to take speed penalties for being thirsty. This causes me to fail the foodless conduct. Speaking very technically, a character can possibly maintain foodless while accomplishing the other achievements, but it would require a tedious and stupidly luck-based strategy to acquire the items necessary to cross the plant mutation threshold, and randomly roll the mutation that lets you gain nutrition and hydration from a root system so you don't have to eat or drink. And all this while slowly ticking up thirst and hunger penalties, making you less and less effective at combat and movement as you race to get that mutation before you die of dehydration. I'm not going to do that. It wouldn't be fun to play or to watch. Anyway, I chowed down on some yummy, cheesy corn casserole that, according to the game, contains no cheese or vegetables or anything else, so it doesn't break my vegan conduct, washed it down with some almond milk, apple cider, and water. My mining career done, I drove south to a campground where I found a sewing kit, a wooden tobacco pipe that realistically I'll probably smoke weed out of instead, and a hunting knife. Even further south I found a pump station, and since I still don't have a crowbar, I have no way to easily get in. There was, however, a drivable car parked outside, so I threw a little bit of gas in it and used it to tactically construct an entranceway. There are bionics and other goodies behind locked barred doors inside these pump stations, which are no obstacle thanks to my hacksaw. I got an electromagnet hand bionic, 2 internal tool sets, and a thermal dissipation pump, along with another first aid kit. There are large barrels in these pump stations that are really useful for transporting large quantities of water or other liquids, but I don't have any storage space in the tow truck big enough to fit them, so I make a note of it and drive south to my second town. The street on the western outskirt of this city has multiple armored vehicles on it, which I'm always interested in case I can get a working Humvee. The tow truck is necessary until I can take the crane off and stick it on another vehicle, but a Humvee or a security van will be the starting template for my actual endgame vehicle construction. Unfortunately, there's also a mass grave right next to this road with a stream of zombies pouring out of it. There's way more than I can hope to fight, so instead I honked the horn a few times to get them all after me, and slowly drove off into a field outside of town, luring the crowd behind me the whole way. Once I had them far enough away from the street, I sped up to break line of sight and circled back around, leaving the street and the first armored vehicle almost zombie-free. I took out one straggler and ran for the first truck. These can have guns in the cab, but unfortunately this one had an empty 9mm version of my own USP handgun. I lured a few more zombies off to the south and returned to hit the second truck, which had an FN-57 pistol with 19 rounds in it. Not a fantastic find, the 5.7 is good at penetrating armor but has low overall damage, but it's a gun and bullets, so I grabbed it anyway. I saw 2 more armored vehicles in the north end of town, so I drove up and hit them. The first one turned out to be a SWAT truck with not just one, but two loaded UMP-45 submachine guns, chambered in 45 ACP just like my sidearm. The final security van had a Remington 870 shotgun up front with two shells loaded in. I'd attracted more attention at this point, so I sprinted back to my truck, using a parked car to get some zombies stuck, and just barely got inside my vehicle before a zombie police dog jumped in with me. I drove far away from the town and took some time to consolidate my ammo, deciding to carry an SMG on a shoulder strap instead of the dirty old AR, and to temporarily replace the USP handgun with the 5.7 in my holster until I run out of ammo for it. I found a thankfully wasp-free radio tower northwest of the last town, and while climbing up I watched a zombie fall off the top of it. He didn't quite die from the fall, and after finishing him off I found a stash of military gear at the top that must have previously belonged to him. Highlights include a makeshift spyglass to let me scout even more of the map as I travel, especially on top of high places like this tower, a proper combat knife in a sheath so I can ditch my damaged survival knife, a banged-up combat helmet, and an MRE, which, even though I can't eat the maple sausage breakfast main course, contains plenty of vegan-friendly sides like crackers, peanut butter, chocolate, and dried fruit to add to my food stock. Carrying the telescope on the top floor of the tower reveals an enormous amount of terrain around me, most notably a freaking military base to the northwest, which could set me up with tons of great stuff and probably a year's supply of ammo if I can safely get to it. While approaching the base, I found a zombified squad of soldiers that had abandoned their weapons on the ground and were currently beating the crap out of Amigo. The alien invader ran away from the squad but bled to death before getting very far. I looped the soldiers away and picked up one of their M4 carbines. What followed was a much closer call than it needed to be just because I got impatient, and I ran out of ammo in the rifle with a half-health soldier right up in my face and with me almost out of stamina. That's when I remembered that I have an armor-piercing pistol in my holster, dropped the rifle, and drew the 5.7, popping the soldier zombie with 3 quick shots to put it down. The gunfire attracted the attention of the squad's apparent leader, a heavily injured zombie bio-operator, and a couple of dermatics that apparently have a truce with the zombies. Since I'm not interested in having mosquito larvae forcibly injected under my skin, I backed off and lured just the bio-operator away, killed him with 1 shot from my SMG, and took his 9mm sidearm and military ID for myself. The ID card allows access through 1 military card reader, of which there are probably a lot in the military base. I actually don't know, I've never been to one. Then I returned to the soldiers I'd killed before, took all their hand grenades, medicine, and vegan snacks, and unloaded the 5.56 ammo out of all the rifles scattered across the grass. There also happened to be a pile of dead drug dealers nearby for some reason, and one of them had a trench knife, which is a straight upgrade to my combat knife. I ate the rest of my hot corn casserole as an early dinner, and circled around the military base to check out an industrial building next door. I used the Pied Piper method with the truck horn to lead off most of the zombies, took out the stragglers with ease with my trusty new trench knife, and grabbed a few tools from the buildings, notably including an iPad that I can use to download data from SD cards, which is the only way I'll be able to access certain crafting recipes. A wood saw, an axe, a jackhammer, a welding tank and goggles but no welder, a bunch of batteries, and some metalworking tools. I'm getting low on space in the truck, so I reorganized and dumped a bunch of stuff, mostly soda and perishable food since I can so easily get more of that, and finished my loop of the military base. The base is entirely circled by a minefield that I'm definitely not going to risk crossing, with the only safe area being the driveway leading to the front entrance, which is instead filled with zombies. I tried leading off a group of them, but they kept getting distracted by the sound of other zombies stepping on landmines and running back to the base to investigate the noise, so that tactic isn't going to work as well here. I decided to leave it alone for now and went north past the soldier body site, finding a scientist body site nearby that. There, I found a blood filter bionic implant, a science SD card which could potentially contain some very important crafting recipes if I can successfully decrypt it, and a wallet containing a scientist's ID card to get into labs like the one I found earlier, a visitor's pass that can grant access to a different type of lab, the Transcoast Logistics Facility, and a note that reveals underground micro labs hidden in the subway systems under nearby towns. Further north, I saw a garage and went after it hoping to find a welder, which ended up being a complete waste of time and energy that I should have realized immediately, so I won't even show it. Long story short, I got beaten up pretty badly, and the only useful thing I got out of it was some ammo from a soldier zombie. At this point, I drove my tow truck off into an abandoned field to treat my wounds and wind my day down as the sun set on the first day of the Cataclysm. With a few achievements under my belt and the items I've acquired so far, I would call that a very successful first day. The next step of the plan is to figure out how to raid the military base, since it's only going to get harder as time goes on and the zombies inside start mutating into more dangerous forms. My best bet would be to find a welder so that I can break into the science lab and blow up a couple of turrets. The ammo they drop should be more than enough for me to shoot my way through the entire military base without fear. So that'll be all for the first episode of the achievement run. Join me next time as we continue this grand journey through the apocalypse.